What is up? Yo. See, I'm fading this correctly for all you audio people out there. It should disappear in your headphones. Or in your ears. So I always loved running a board. And it's something like you'll see, like I know Preston and Steve, Preston and Casey, they both are behind the board, and I think Preston has like his own little board. When I worked at WIP and I moved into the back studio, I was able to I had a board where I could do a couple different things, but it wasn't like running a full board, which you'll see some radio people like to do it. It's just you just want to be able to control things, right? Like you want to be able to control fading sound in and out, or sometimes if you're playing sound cuts, not every piece of sound is edited or made alike, right? Like, so you'll have some pieces of sound that are a lot hotter than others. So you want to be able to control the volume, and 99% of radio hosts, especially sports radio hosts in this city, will just be like, hey, so let's hear from Nick Sirianni. They're not doing anything. They're throwing it to the producer who's hitting it. So you're kind of powerless. But anyway, what's up, everybody? No Delco Steve tonight. You would think that on a night like this, the first show since a huge signing for your Philadelphia Flyers, or at least that's what it's going to look like. Look like that's going to happen. He texted me and he's like, yo, I have a soccer game tonight. And I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. And he's like, yeah, I'll probably be walking in right at 9:00. I'm like, yeah, cool. And so then he texts me later and he's like, the game starts at 8:40, not 7:40. And I'm like, oh man. So he will not be joining us unless it's at the very end of the show. But he was mad because it's the first chance that he can talk about. Now say it with me, people. Matvei Michkov. The mad Russian that we've been hearing about here for the last couple of weeks. And I'll be honest. When they drafted him last year, I heard, oh, we would have been drafted a lot higher if he would have been coming over. He may not be over till 2026. Their teams are worried he's not going to be able to get out of his contract in the KHL. So, so he fell. And I was reading up today. I was looking at some of the mock drafts before the draft happened, and it was pretty much unanimous that he was the second. It wasn't complete. All right, so it wasn't unanimous, but I would say more people than not said that he was the second best talent in this draft. 19 years old now, and I'm very much a casual hockey fan that needs the Flyers to be interesting and good for me to care. And they haven't been good, interesting or good for the right reasons in a long time, so I haven't watched a lot of Flyers hockey. So this is what all Flyers fans, like I listened to Bill Matz and Broad Street Hockey with Charlie O'Connor, I guess yesterday when right after the news broke. I watched some of it today, and they do a great job, Bill and Charlie and crew on Broad Street Hockey. But like, this is a guy that has all the talent in the world, and now you have a chance. Now, will he be able to play? Blah, 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 blah. I have no idea. I don't know anything about him. But I can tell you what everything I read is that he's really talented and a great prospect. So now it's a matter of building around him. This guy's not going to change the franchise individually. But now what Jonesy and Danny Briere have shown is that they can accomplish some things. And it actually, the situation brought me back to Dario Saric. Remember when the Sixers drafted him, and it's like, oh, they're going to try to get him to come over. They're going to try to get him to come over. And I don't remember the exact details, but the financials were, if he waited, he could have made more money than if he just came over. Because I think he wouldn't have been bound to his rookie contract. if he would have waited, whatever it was. I remember being on the air saying, there's no shot this guy's coming over because it doesn't make any sense financially or whatever. And you didn't get the same kind of feel here, but it was like, why would the KHL, why they let him out of his contract unless there's some type of a deal going on for money or something? And it was earlier than most people expected until recent. Like recently was when it looked like it could happen this year, but it was years away, and that's why he fell, and the Flyers got him. So I'm in. I am ready to root for the Flyers. I'm ready to watch hockey. I need something interesting, and I haven't had it. The Keith Primo after Lindros, that next era of Flyers hockey was fun. They didn't win. Simon Gagne, that's pretty much when I stopped watching. Was the comeback against Boston, I was still vaguely interested. Wayne Simmons I liked a lot, but I was like, this is how I am. I'm Eagles, I'm Phillies. My interest has really waned on the 76ers in the last couple of years. Really, really has. And the Flyers are just, I don't watch them. So now I'm hoping this is going to give me a reason to watch, and he actually translates. Now I don't know what you can expect at the age of 19, but it's great news. It is. Now I'm hoping that it doesn't turn out like Dario Saric. Can we all admit that was built up to be? You're getting the next Tony Kukoc. You're getting this Euro 3-and-D, shoot the three, handle the ball, blah, 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 blah. And it actually makes you realize how good Kukoc was and how ahead of his time he was. Because when he was doing this, and he's a former 76er, when he was doing this, there wasn't a lot of players in the NBA that were like Tony Kukoc. Now that's what you get. And Saric was a poor man's Tony Kukoc. Didn't end up working out for him. I mean, he was all right. I know he was loved here by 76ers fans. And that era of 76ers basketball coming off the process was fun. It was. But I didn't think he was going to come over. He didn't have financial incentive to come over. He came over. He's bounced around a little bit now. Dario Saric still made a lot of money, but he's a rotational guy at this point. Yeah, so this is great news. Great news for the Flyers. And I said this without knowing anything about hockey or the Flyers organization or the players or anything like that. But when they hired Keith Jones, and I know Jonesy pretty well from working at WIP, and he's an amazing guy who he's one of these guys that everybody likes. And it's not just that everybody likes him, but he's somewhat brilliant. And you can see it. He's so funny. And his timing when he was on with Angelo, the timing was impeccable. For being a guy that had no radio training and was just able to come in and not being like the biggest Angelo listener in the world. But if Jonesy was on, I normally enjoyed the show. It just added to the chemistry. He was perfect, but like a really, really smart guy. So when he got hired, I brought up Ted Lasso. Because Ted Lasso didn't know anything about soccer, and he went over to England and blah, 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 right? Because it's not about needing to know something. It's about managing people and being smart. A CEO of a Fortune 500 company should be able to run, like a baseball franchise. Look at Theo Epstein. Theo Epstein is one of the great general managers of the last 25 years. Got the Cubs a World Series, the Red Sox multiple World Series, and he could have done anything. And he ends up being a CEO of a baseball franchise, essentially, right? So I'm not trying to tell you Jonesy's like that, but his own version of it, a Ted Lasso version. And so far, they haven't won anything. They haven't even won a playoff game, but it's been a couple steps in the right direction. And the thing I've noticed as a casual Flyers fan is that when they're making moves or they're making trades, there's not a lot of reaction of what are they doing? What is that? I'm Googling what the trade reaction is from national writers, and they're being like, what the hell are the Flyers doing? So maybe the Flyers can get back. I don't know. Well, we don't have Ted Lasso fans here. Ted Lasso is a women's show wrapped in a sports world. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to say to that. I would disagree. What's a woman's show? Like, for example, How I Met Your Mother, I never watched until my wife was watching reruns or when it was off the air or whatever. And I watched in horror. That was a terrible show. Terrible. All right, but like, okay, I would say that's a all right. You can consider that kind of a chick show, and then I'll get 1,000 guys that'll say that was a good show. What are you talking about? Right? I don't know. I recently started rewatching Cheers. I don't know how many people out there watched that in its original run. I think last season was 93. So I was a junior in high school. I grew up with that NBC Thursday night with Cosby, Different World, Cheers, Night Court, and I forget what they put after Night Court. LA Law originally, ER later. But Cheers, for my money, was always if not my favorite show, one of my top favorite shows. And I watched it when it was in reruns and everything else. But I found a channel that pretty much plays like 4, 5, 6 episodes a day. So I DVR'd it, and now I'm rewatching them, and it's funnier than it's laugh out loud because I put my AirPods in, and I'll watch it on my phone when I'm doing dishes or I'm cleaning or whatever, and my wife will always be like, "What are you laughing at?" And I'm like, "I'm watching Cheers." She's like, "Why are you laughing?" Like, because it's laugh out loud. It's just such a great show. If you haven't seen Cheers, it's back in the day when it was filmed before a live studio audience, which is really weird to think right now that any type of America's Got Talent or American Idol would be filmed in front of a live studio audience. But yeah, there you go. There's my buddy Kevin Key, who, yes, Kevin Key would be a guy that liked How I Met Your Mother. What a terrible show. And when I say that, it wasn't an actual terrible show, but it was a terrible show. Does that make sense? Right? Like, it was well done. The good actors. Like, it's not a show that didn't. I understand why it lasted. It's just not for me. Like, to me, that's a chick show. But anyway, did I see here that Vince had the baby? Is that true? Let me see here. Vince, who's one of our regulars. Vince, congratulations. Or you said thank you. I gotta find one. If you're live from the hospital. Had the baby today. All right, Vince. So you're 6'9", and your wife, I believe, is 6'2". So that baby's got to have pretty good size. I'd have to think he's probably almost as tall as me coming out of the womb. You have to update us on that. Congratulations on the baby. Unsolved Mysteries. Huh? Who was it that was the narrator of Unsolved Mysteries? See, that's so 90s, Unsolved Mysteries. But I used to watch it, yeah. Robert Stack. Was it Robert Stack? Anyway, yeah, I watched Unsolved Mysteries. That was a good show. Yeah, man, we're going back a long time. 10 pounds. All right, so here's what you get when you have a 6'2" wife and a 6'9" husband. 10 pounds, 10 ounces, 23.5 inches, so almost 2 feet. Now, I will say I'm not a large man. My wife is short, but we had big babies. We had some of the biggest babies of any of our friends, if not the biggest. But there you go. Doesn't end up working out later on in life. And that's why every time I see Ben Davis, I say to Ben, like, yo, dude, like, I'm trying to arrange a marriage between one of his boys and one of my daughters because I need to add some size to my family. You know, like real. I mean, that's a generational changer. Even though it won't have my last name, but still. All right, so Flyers fans, congratulations. Actually, makes me feel a little bit better that Delco Steve misses this because he was so happy. He was so stoked, and then he has a soccer game. in the stupid soccer league that he's in. And he's like, oh, man, I wanted to talk about it so much. So, well, there you go. Good job. How about the, so the Phillies were up 4-1. I don't have it on here. So I got down to the Basement Lakes. The kid 8-1. The Detroit stinks. They got a triple play. Runners on first and third. It was a liner back to broken bat liner, and it wasn't a hard liner, but it was a broken bat back to Nola. Nola catches it. Runner on first is halfway to second. He throws it to first. The runner on third obviously thought that it was I guess the bat maybe interfered, or he thought the bat was the ball, because he runs home like it's a ground ball. So they just throw it over to first base, triple play, boom, out of the inning. Top of the ninth, fills up 8-1. I saw Bomer had a home run. I was in and out. Oh, Harp went deep. Boom. 3 for 5 for Bryce Harper. Home run, a double. Bomer, 4 for 5. He's batting .313 now. Bryce is up over 300 at 303. 5 RBIs for Bryce Harper. See what else here. Trey Turner had a hit and a run scored. Stotty with 2 hits. And Aaron Nola, 7 efficient innings. 6 hits, no walks, 6 strikeouts. So a really good start to the series. They took 2 or 3 from Arizona. Naturally, I was at the game on Friday night, and it's the game that they lost. I don't remember the last time I went to a Phillies game and they won. I don't. That my wife and I went to, that they won. I was at the National League Championship game in Arizona when Kimball blew it. But, it was like a close game. They hit a couple home runs, but it was hot as hell. It was the Cole Hamels retirement ceremony, which was I wasn't expecting much from Cole. It was I was appreciative of him. It meant a lot to him, you could see. But then he said Vince Vukovich and not John Vukovich. And I think he called him Mark Arbuckle. It's Mike Arbuckle, which you're nervous and stuff. I can understand saying Mark instead of Mike. But where the hell does he get Vince Vukovich from? Who wrote this speech? Was this an AI generated speech? Vince Vukovich, actually, wasn't he a part of the Von Hayes trade? I think he was in the movie Major League too. That was Pete Vukovich. Oh, so is that why he said Vince Vukovich? Yeah, I know Vince is his son, so I guess they were coming up at about the same time. I thought he was talking about there was a former major leaguer, Vince Vukovich. All right, so thank you, Vince. That makes sense. Vince played at Delaware. Was he a college one? But it was it got me a couple times. Charlie being introduced, that got me choked up a little bit, and then Chooch. When Chooch got introduced and he was pounding on his heart and going like that, like you're the heart. I mean, seeing Chooch out there was awesome. It was really, really awesome. So it was cool to see Flash Gordon was back, which was interesting. I didn't know, was Cole really close with him, or did they just put out the text message like, hey, we need more people. No one's coming back for Cole. Because none of the guys were there, right? None of the big guys were there. I saw Shane Victorino, he always comments on Instagram. So he was involved, but yeah. So, Steve Jeltz did not wear the jersey. I wore the shirt that my wife got me for Mother's Day. So I did not wear the Jeltz Mother's Day for Father's Day. I did not wear the Jeltz jersey. But it was, it was hot. So we sat we were on the first base line. And I said to my wife, where are our seats? She's like, I don't know. And I'm like, all right, well, where are we sitting? And I looked at the section. I'm like, we're going to get roasted. Well, how do you know? I'm like, so the 1 o'clock games, if you're in left field or you're in third base, you get the sun. If it's a little bit later in the day, right field, first base line, you get roasted. I've sat in left field. I made the mistake of sitting in left field for a game that was 100 degrees for a Sunday 1 o'clock game. And I mean, I can deal with it, but my wife was like, we have to go. We have to get out of the sun. I'm like, all right, whatever. And she's Egyptian. You'd think that her pigment would allow her to deal with it. But it gets hot as hell. Man, it was hot. And this is at 6:30 at night. And the sun is just blasting us to where even with sunglasses, I still have to put my hand up so I can see. So we actually we had good seats. So it was yeah, overall it was a great night, minus the game. And Taiwan Walker. Jesus. I don't know what you, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It is not good. And you just wonder if it's a you're almost he said he was completely healthy. And Rob Thompson after the game's like, I don't think he's healthy. And now he's got a problem with his finger and who knows what else is going on. So just like when he came back into the rotation, normally or not normally, but sometimes these problems will figure itself out. And so far it has because he was a start or two away from losing that starting spot if he kept pitching like that. And once he's out of the rotation, this contract's a disaster. Let's be honest. We know it. We know maybe next year he comes back and he has the one good year out of the contract. Maybe you'll be able to trade him and feed some of the money, whatever. The good thing is you have some options, even past the obvious move. And the rest of your starting rotation is so unbelievable. Unbelievable. Chris Sanchez. How about this? Chris Sanchez with a contract extension. They're working on a contract extension with Ranger Suarez. Pinch me. Pinch me. I feel like the Eagles last year. It scares me. Pinch me. Remember the Eagles were doing so like there's no weakness in this team. Like what the freak? Like the front office is unbelievable. The ownership's unbelievable. The coaching's unbelievable. Like this team's great. And it all fell apart. But man, it is unbelievable. I think Eflin was banged up, Vince. I was just actually thinking about this because Eflin got 3 years and $45 million, and the same year that they gave Walker the $18 million a year. So Eflin has been excellent, and honestly it's hard for me to let me see where he's 3-5 this year with a 4.2 ERA, 14 starts. It's hard for me to argue with them walking away from Eflin, even though he was really, really good last year in the playoffs or 2 years ago in the playoffs. He was really, really good out of the bullpen. He showed versatility. He was one of their best relievers. And they really could have used him last year when the bullpen kind of started to fall apart. But, unfortunately, they bet on Walker over Eflin. Eflin couldn't stay healthy. It was easy to see why they moved on. I don't know why they went Taiwan Walker. I don't. I didn't really like the signing then, and I definitely don't like the signing. Nobody likes the signing now. So Kevin Key is saying that Bryce Harper is a huge problem, according to some people at WIP. Let me guess, Joe Giglio? Spike? I don't know. I'm sure it was after. Oh, all right, so let me say this. I was at the game Friday night, and I saw the double that could have been a triple that I guess he thought was a home run, and then he's just kind of jogging to second base. I was shocked he didn't get to third. I didn't see the way he at the game. I wasn't watching him live. I didn't see how slow he came out of the box. With nobody on, with nobody out, he doesn't want to make the first out at third base, even though he routinely is over aggressive and makes a stupid base running play. So I actually didn't have as much problem with him getting a double, not tagging up and getting to third base. It really could have cost him the game. Got into a double play, which sucked, but like that stuff's going to happen. But not getting to third base on a play that, worst case, you have to get to third base. Worst case, because he would have scored. If the ball would have went off the wall, he would have been able to score. Unacceptable. But with all of that with Bryce Harper, you have to realize that he is as good as it gets in Major League Baseball. And with any star player, you got to take some of the bad because there's so much more good than the bad. But, yeah. So like I can totally see Spike doing that. Like Jack and Ike aren't gonna kill him. So I don't know if he believes that. I mean, I'm sure because there are people like my guy Maniac Malloy from Bet Parks. Bryce Harper drives him crazy with stuff like that. And like I get it. But he is it's so amazing. You saw it tonight. And this team is rolling right now. So they get the win. I'm assuming they got the win here. I didn't look to see if it was a final, but um, so we have the Phils winning. Oh, so the Phillies right now, if they would, it's possible that the Phillies could have more All-Stars than anybody. There's the record for All-Stars in a game is 9. And the Phillies right now have a chance to have 9 All-Stars on their team. Now, is that going to happen? I mean, when you look at the voting, because what's his name? Rojas is 7th in voting, so the Phillies are selling a lot of tickets. So a lot of people are voting. Now you can vote online. Phillies possible All-Stars. Sorry, I had this link here, and then I don't know what's going on. But yeah, so like literally you could have Harper. He leads Freddie Freeman by 700,000 votes. And by the way, he's been amazing this year. I don't know what Freddie Freeman's numbers are. I'm sure they're amazing too. Freddie Freeman's an awesome talent. I'm not even close to Bryce Harper. No, Bryce is having a better year. So Stott's third, but he trails by 200,000 votes. Bohm has 4 times as many votes as Manny Machado. Manny Machado has not had a good year, by the way. Bohm's going to be a starter. Trey Turner second to Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts is going to be out of the All-Star game. He busted his hand. He will not be back in time. So he has he looks like he has the inside track to be a starter. So you could literally have, and Bryson Stott should not be an All-Star. Let me say that. He has not done it. And then you have JT Realmuto, who is second. He's second right now. 400,000 votes behind. I don't know if he gets in. He would have to win the voting. So Marsh Castellanos rank 5th and 6th in votes among NL outfielders. The top 6 move on to the second phase. So, I mean, I don't think they're going to get in. They don't deserve it. Schwarber is 3rd behind Ohtani. You tell me Schwarber's not going to get picked? I would think he would. So Harper, Bohm, Turner, locks, right? Suarez in, Wheeler in. So now, is Chris Sanchez a starter? Does he make it as a starter? Probably not. What about Pastrami? Matt Strahm, one of the best ERAs in baseball. He's a possible. Hoffman has been unbelievable. Alvarado. So the Braves had 8 All-Stars last year. You can make the case for 9, or the possibility of 9 Phillies making the All-Star team, which is unbelievable. Man, Phillies are kind of. We knew that they had a lot of talent, but it's kind of sneaky how good they are. I mean, Dave Dombrowski, you really get a great appreciation. And I'll go back to Ed Wade. Ed Wade wasn't the worst GM in the world, but you can see the difference between Ed Wade and Pat Gillick. Pat Gillick made mistakes. Dave Dombrowski's made mistakes. But he knows how to finish a team. He knows how to complete a team. You look at a guy like Sosa, Mundo Sosa. He gave up a good young reliever who's doing very well in St. Louis for Mundo Sosa. Minor move, but look how that's paid off, right? A couple of the trades that he's made have really been great, and then he's missed. Castellanos wasn't a good signing. We know Taijuan Walker. It was a joke. Strahm's been excellent. Alvarado's been unbelievable. Hoffman he's a former first-round draft pick. They got him off waivers last year. And he's one of the best relievers in baseball. So it has been, Dave Dombrowski knows what he's doing. You're looking at a Hall of Fame GM here. So it's a lot of fun. All right, let's move on from that. And I had this, we'll wrap up with Bill Belichick, but I saw this, Zach Berman put out this tweet. He said, "What if moments?" And I guess he was doing this on their PHLY pod with Bo Wolf, and I think Les Bowen was on it as well. So let's do this with what ifs. And I thought these were all interesting. So he says, what if Kevin Kolb didn't get injured in 2010? And I was like, I actually like started retweeting it, and I'm like, let me put the answer system. I don't have space to write. So Kevin Kolb was not going to be even an average quarterback in the NFL, regardless of injury. I know he had 2 games where he threw for 300 yards with the Eagles. Go back and really look at the games. Any quarterback that makes a couple of throws, I'm not telling you he was Bobby Hoying or a piece of garbage or anything like that, but like Kevin Kolb was never going to be a good NFL quarterback. So that's how I answer that question. The what if of Kevin Kolb. What if he didn't get injured in 2010? The Eagles would have been looking for a new quarterback at some point because, like when Mike Vick signed here, I think a lot of people were like, oh, well, he's cooked, or like, no, Mike Vick. Everybody in that locker room knew that he was going to be the guy, and it happened a lot faster than it thought. But whatever. All right, here's the good one. What if Chip Kelly never traded LaShawn McCoy? What happens? Does Chip Kelly salvage another season? Are the Eagles better? See, what I'll say is that the futility of Chip Kelly ended up setting up the Super Bowl. Because if Chip Kelly doesn't trade Deshaun and LaShawn, if they don't fall apart, he probably gets 2 more years because they have talent and they're winning. They were never winning a Super Bowl with Chip Kelly. Never. LaShawn McCoy, Deshaun Jackson, whatever. They were shouting. The defenses were shouting out the plays. Once he got figured out, brother, he got figured out. I've never seen anybody get exposed like that. He didn't even have an offense. He had that stupid pace where they went so fast. And then once the NFL figured out, oh, we just fake injuries, or as long as they don't get a first down, they're screwed. So I don't think, I agree with you, Vince. I don't think they win a Super Bowl. Chip Kelly actually helped set up the Super Bowl because then Howie came back into power and he's tried to turn it around real quick, which he did. Yeah, there was nothing. The only thing that could have happened was that Shady would have played his entire career as an Eagle or would have played longer with the Eagle. I don't think anything. Anybody think anything changes with Shady? He was still a really, really good running back. He's a running back, though. He was a running back. All right, next one. What if the Eagles made Nick Foles the franchise quarterback in 2018? This is a good one. So here's where it could have been great. Because you would have gotten the draft picks for Carson Wentz. Because Nick Foles wasn't winning squat in 2018 or 2019 or 2020. None of it. You weren't winning squat with Nick Foles. He was never going to stay healthy. He was never going to be a quarterback for the entire season. It was never going to work. I love Nick Foles more. I'll say more than anybody. He's on my friggin' back. And now that I'm a member of the pool and I have my shirt off a couple times a week in front of the public, people that don't know what it's from are asking. And my wife's looking at me like, you motherfucker. I gotta relive this now all the time. Like, yeah, Nick Foles is on my back with a Lombardi trophy. You think I'm proud of it? You think I like it? I don't. But it's there, all right? It's got a story attached to it. So I love Nick Foles, and I think Nick Foles is a good quarterback in a short window. But if you thought he was going to take the baton and come off the Super Bowl year and they were going to march back to the playoffs, he didn't even last. How long did he last in Jacksonville when he left? A game? Jeez. So I don't think anything would have changed. Now, so here's what would happen. Let's say Nick Foles, they brought him back in 2018. They gave him a new contract. He can't stay healthy in 2018. They bring him back in 2019. He can't stay healthy in 2019. So they're probably drafting a quarterback in 2020, or they already drafted a quarterback in 2019. So maybe they don't get Jalen Hurts. Maybe they get a different quarterback. I don't know. But I don't think it changes anything. All right, here's a great one. What if Justin Jefferson was picked by the Eagles over Jalen Reagor in 2020? Well, you'd be paying Justin Jefferson right now. The Vikings haven't paid him, right? Or he did just get the extension. That's right. He got the extension. So the Eagles would have paid Justin Jefferson. Here's what would have changed if they drafted Justin Jefferson over Rager. So Carson would have been affected by it because he was going to be cooked. But they probably wouldn't have drafted Devontae Smith, and they probably wouldn't have traded for A.J. Brown. So as Vince says right here, they might have taken Micah Parsons. So they would have had Justin Jefferson, but they would have taken Micah Parsons. So let me ask this question. All kidding aside, right? And this is legit. And having two Pro Bowl wide receivers, I believe, is the way to go in the NFL. Even if you have to pay both of them, this salary cap is such bullshit. Anybody, Jerry Jones is talking about, well, we can't fit him in and we have to pay everybody. You pay anybody you want. Eagles have proven that. How much money have the Eagles spent? Everybody gets a huge contract. But anyway, you probably draft Micah Parsons and you don't take Devontae. So would you rather have Micah Parsons, who is one of the best defensive players? I'm not going to say the best, one of the best defensive players in football. And he wants a new contract, and he's going to make $30-some million a year. Or Devontae Smith. Devontae's very good. I think Devontae is going to have a great season this year. Great. Not above average, not, yeah, man, like great season this year. So, listen, it's worked out very well for the Eagles. It has. But just thinking about that, it's like the movie Back to the Future. You know, Back to the Future? When Marty goes back to 1955 and he starts changing things because his mom fell in love with him, and now like he's fading, and he looks at the Polaroid picture and he doesn't have his leg now or whatever, because he's changing the past, which means that's changing his life, right? So that's what you're doing with the Eagles right now. If you just draft Justin Jefferson, a lot's different. So it'd be nice to have Micah Parsons here, but it's nice to have another wide receiver too. All right, well, I think there's one more here. All right, what if Carson Wentz didn't want out in 2021? And this is a great one. What if he didn't ask out? Remember when he where it was like, is he going to stay? Is he not going to stay? Sirianni got hired, and he's talking like Carson's coming back because the word wasn't out that Carson Wentz wanted out. And it was and then when it came out that he didn't want to be here, then everybody turned on him. It was like, oh, how could you want? Even people that wanted him gone were mad that he wanted to be gone. And I was relieved because he was cooked with a capital C. I'll even give him cooked with a K. He was cooked. He was never coming back. Not in this town. I thought he could have went somewhere else and revived his career. He was mentally cooked. He could never handle this city and this media base. And now his teammates weren't behind him, which was pretty clear. He would have never lasted. It was the best thing. I mean, think about it. How fortunate are we that Carson forced his hands? Because you know what? They weren't going to get rid of him. They were unhappy with everything that was going on with him. Obviously, they were unhappy with his play, but there was a lot of other things that were going on, man. A lot of other things behind the scenes. As far as his control and controlling, and remember how he wasn't taking the coaching well and everything else. So it was like, honestly, like, thank you. Thank you, Carson Wentz, because otherwise he's here for another year, and then him and Jalen he probably sucks again, and then Jalen takes over the job. So I don't really know what it changes other than they were still able to get multiple draft picks, including a first-round pick, a first and a third for Carson Wentz. And that idiot owner got rid of him after a year. I guess how much of an idiot is he sucks since he's been there. But, yeah, he was it's really, really weird. As the man who came up with the Wentz wagon, and remember President Barack Obama? He's in Philly giving a speech, and he said, and Joe said, you gotta watch the Wentz wagon. Or I forget exactly what he said, but he brought up the Wentz wagon. It was like, oh my God, the president's talking about Carson Wentz. And just like that, just like that. Remember he was trying to be a good leader, so he bought his offensive line. Jalen buys him Rolexes. This idiot buys him shotguns. And then like Jason Kelsey was on his phone and had the shotgun between his leg. And I don't how someone didn't get shot by accident. An idiot. Yep. Yeah, Jalen's like, here's some Rolexes. God, so glad he's gone. I actually feel bad for him. I mean, he's that bad. I never rooted against him. I just wanted him to freak out of here. And then he went to Washington. I want him to go to Washington because I didn't feel like dealing with the Carson Wentz games twice a year. But he sucked so bad it didn't even matter. It was a non-factor. Is he Kansas City? Is that who picked him up? Andy picked him up? It's going to tell you something, that the Rams didn't want him back. The Rams didn't want him back. So you would think McVay would look at a guy and be like, nah, man, like, yeah, I can get something out of this guy. He's going to be my reclamation project. Are we really talking about this guy still? Well, I mean, being that Zach Berman put it on the what if Carson Wentz didn't want out, yes, we're still talking about him. But I'm not saying 215-592-9494. So, next quarterback, well, I mean, we'll see what happens with Carson Wentz. All right, so I'll say this, and we'll wrap up the Eagles conversation. That I believe this is going to be a very productive year for the Eagles offense and Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith and Saquon Barkley. I think this is going to be a huge season for this Eagles offense. So I think it's fair to have questions about Jalen Hurts, because as bad as the coaching was, as bad as the play calling was, as bad as everything else was last year in the last, I'll say, third of the season, there still was Jalen's performance earlier in the year, where in a lot of these games, he is just putting the team on the back and he's going out and he's winning, right? But then you know what happened? Jalen started seeing ghosts, and they couldn't protect him because they were being blitzed. And in a game of chess, like happens in the NFL, in game, and then when teams say, hey, remember the 49ers said just blitz him on the inside. He's looking at the rush. He was looking at the rush. He was sensing pressure that wasn't there. He was uneasy in the pocket. He wasn't throwing with confidence. He was bailing to his right. Pretty much the first sign, or at least him sensing pressure, he was uncomfortable like that. And unfortunately, Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni didn't have any answers. So, but Jalen's also got to wear a lot of that, because it's not always going to be perfect. And he was done. So, Kellen Moore, Nick Sirianni now not in charge of playing calls and kind of being the Ted Lasso of the Eagles, I guess you could say. And I think that Jalen is really going to benefit from a healthy dose of running the football, which they're going to do with Saquon Barkley, but he's still going to throw for 4,000 yards. Everybody throws for 4,000 yards. But Barkley's going to give them a dynamic in the backfield that they just haven't had. Miles Sanders was good. You know, like Eagles have had some decent running backs. Saquon Barkley, if healthy, can be the Eagles' Christian McCaffrey type. Got to stay healthy. But so I believe, so if you're asking me if I think that Jalen's going to have a bounce back year, I do believe in Jalen. He showed me too much the previous year. He really improved as a passer, from throwing within the pocket, throwing deep, doing a lot as a passer. And he lost a lot of that last year. Just did. But now it's up to him to get that back and spend this offseason getting it back. So it is, I know, like Vince, I'm just using, Vince says Jalen hasn't thrown for 4,000 yards yet. I'm just kind of using that as like a, you know, everybody throws for 4,000 yards, or everybody comes close to throwing for 4,000 yards. All right, let me see what he's thrown for. Jalen Hurts. Yeah, 38-58. All right, so you got me by 100 yards. It's going to be a hell of a year for Jalen Hurts. And you know what? Like, they are They need it. They need it. If they're going to get back to a Super Bowl, if they're going to win a Super Bowl, then they need Jalen Hurts to look like Jalen Hurts the Super Bowl year. Oh, so this is the one other Eagles thing, and then we'll talk about Belichick when we wrap it up. So the 2024 pre-camp power rankings by Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk. And I didn't like when the season ended, it was like, man, we knew the Eagles fell apart, but it also didn't like their secondary looked old. It's like, how are you going to get out of these contracts, right? Like Slade looks old, Bradbury looks old, Kelsey's retiring, right? Like, yeah, all these things, and very quickly from the draft, from free agency, hiring 2 new coordinators, the Eagles have went from, man, they really fell apart to being like, all right, they're viewed as a legit contender. So here are if anybody cares about these power rankings, here's Mike Florio. Number 1, Chiefs. How can you argue with that? 2 in a row. Pat Mahomes, Andy Reid, bing, bang, boom. 49ers at 2. Is this the year? Too much talent. If they can get Brandon Ayuk back and keep him happy to where that's not a problem. I know they were supposed to meet with him today. Too much talent. Brock Purdy, you would have to believe Brock Purdy takes a step back. I don't believe Brock Purdy's taking a step back. I know it's probably not a popular opinion in Philadelphia, but it's not. There's no reason for me to believe he's going to take a step back or a major step back. He's a really good quarterback. He's got the intangibles that you're looking for from a starting quarterback. And I saw it when he was a rookie, and I was watching a press conference from him. And he didn't seem all that impressed. He didn't seem like any of it was too big. It was just like, looked like he'd been there before. And he looks like he's been there before now. So, I know he didn't have a great playoff run. But I still believe it. All right, so 3, Lions. And they blew it to the 49ers, right? The Lions did 17-point lead at halftime. Listen, we'll see. They paid Jared Goff like they expect them to be back there this year. I think the Lions are a good team. Are they as good as the Eagles? Ravens 4. I think Derrick Henry is going to have a monster season because they want to run the football. Monster season. 5, Eagles. So there you go. And here's the little capsule. It says the changes of the coaching staff and the poaching of Saquon Barkley should help fix whatever went haywire late last season. I totally agree. I agree. Saquon Barkley, it really impressed by Howie Roseman that he went out and he said, you know what? Like, how do we get Jalen Hurts back to being the player that we saw in 2022? And they were still leaning on the run game heavily. And you got to be able to run the football. Got to run the football. Got to run the football with Jalen Hurts. It makes him dynamic out of the running game. It takes the pressure off of him in the passing game. Because you don't want the offense thinking Jalen's just going to throw the ball, right? Like that's not putting him in the best position to be the best quarterback he can be. So especially this first year, I think you're going to get the best results from Saquon Barkley, the best results as far as an offense with Kellen Moore coming in. And then it goes Packers. Man, Packers 6. Bills, Bengals, Buccaneers. Buccaneers? Ahead of the Texans, Dolphins, Browns. All right. Cowboys are 16. No way. 1 ahead of the Bears. The Cowboys are going to win. Cowboys are going to win 11 games this year at least. I know that they didn't add to the team, and I wouldn't. I'm not saying they're winning anything, but they're going to win regular season games. So, yeah. There you go. So that's the first one I've seen since the end of all the drafts and the free agency or prior to camp. All right, so did everybody see the Bill Belichick story with the girlfriend? We talked about it the last show that we had on Thursday night. So her name's Jordan Hudson. She's 24 years old, and she is, 23 years old, and is Bill Belichick's girlfriend. And this just isn't some hoochie that he was messing around with or whatever. Like, this is his legit girlfriend that he has been. Now the Tom Brady thing at when he got his number retired, that Bill was there and spoke. He was there with her. They were photographed last week. He was getting on his boat or whatever. So this is his girlfriend. She's 23 years old. Bill's 72. Yes, that's a 49-year difference. And I saw some. Yeah, she's like, man. So here's one picture. I'm gonna share the screen here for everybody so you can see it. But like he out on the boat, so he's taking pictures and it's getting put out there. So there they are right there. Oh, the loving couple. Isn't that nice? Good old Bill Belichick. Delco Steve's here. He made it.
What's up,
Delco Steve?
How are you?
Well, I was just looking at Belichick, who, by the way, so now he's going all over the place with this chick. This is very public. In fact, they've been dating since 2023.
Oh yeah, they've like known each other for like years. This is weird.
They've known each other for years, but they've also been dating for over a year now. He had what was her name? Hold on, I'm looking at this right here. So he had a longtime girlfriend that he recently broke up with. I don't know if you remember this. And like, this was in
she younger? She was younger too, wasn't she?
Yeah, but she was like 50 something.
Right.
Yeah, he wasn't a 70-year-old. No.
So wait, this chick dated like a 60-year-old too. This other chick.
So that's the new story and why it came out. So this guy who he could have kept his mouth shut, and it would have been better for her. But he talks to TMZ. His name's Jordan. Or no. What is this? This is a dope's name. Josh Zuckerman told TMZ Sports.
Oh, he sounds like a sucker.
he wants to push back at critics claiming that she's only with Bill Belichick for his money. Because you know what? I used to date her, and I'm 64.
Does he have money?
Well, yeah. What do you? Of course. Of course he does. Yeah, he was. I forget exactly what he was, but he was very well off and a successful. But he was a businessman. So they were a thing for a couple of years. She's only 23. So obviously, I don't know if there's some kind of daddy thing going on with her or whatever. It's very, very odd. But
or she's just a smart gold digger.
See, I don't think she's a gold digger. She obviously comes from money. See, here's what it is, right? And why it's weird is that, I mean, it's excessive to be 50 years younger. But for a woman to like an older man that's already established, that's already successful, that is mature, you know what I mean? Like, it's one thing.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
But 50 years is to the extreme. Like, there's got to be something. I'm not saying that she's not a nice girl or whatever. She's got to have something wrong with her to want to date somebody 49 years older than her. Could you imagine coming home and telling, like, I have 3 daughters. So like if my Gianna came home and said I'm dating a 70-year-old, if she was dating a 40-year-old, I would have a problem with it.
At 23. That's what. Yeah, I agree with it.
If like 30, so I'm 7 years older than my wife. 30 is like, all right, like that's a good age. It's older, but like it's not that much older. I wasn't 24 and she was 17. I was 35 right. And she was 28. So it's like, whatever. But I mean, I'm flabbergasted. I thought that they just got outed. I didn't realize that they've been a serious thing for over a year. And they've been talking for 2 years. I knew that this is unbelievable.
That's the weirder thing to me. It's like, who sits down next to a 79-year-old on a plane and be like, yeah, let me get your number and we're just gonna be friends. Like, right. Because like obviously
while she's dating a 64-year-old.
And he's dating someone. Like, no one questions that? There's no red flags shooting up in the air, or like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, she's fucking nuts.
That's the weirder part to me than anything. It's like if I said to you, it's like, yeah, I just made friends with this dude on a plane. he's 90. We're hanging out next week. You'd be like, why? And we're like, and that's just like, we're not even dating. It's just like, that's just me just hanging out with some random person. It's just like, no, you'd be like, that's weird. And I would agree with you.
No, honestly, it'd be easier for me to process if she just wanted his money and she was a big booty Instagram model and Bill was just like, hell yeah. This is like a real love relationship.
Hold on
a second. Bill Belichick's 72 years old. He's supposed to be the best coach in NFL history. How the hell can he look any of his former players in his face? She's 50 years younger than him. Isn't he supposed to be above this? Isn't he supposed to be the guy that's like, like he was supposed to be the perfect coach that asks for everything out of his players? He's dating some 23-year-old? It's unbelievable.
You think he's going to be attentive to a game plan too anymore? Like if he came back as coaching, but he's got that in him?
Well, and listen, she's cute and everything, but
no, I mean, I'm not saying from like my perspective. I'm saying from his perspective. Like that, when's he getting better that actually like wants to be with him and not actually take his money?
Yeah, like he has got enough money. Go find somebody that just wants your money. Get a couple of the Instagram models. I mean, Jesus, let them slide into your DMs.
Yeah, like you could be like, yeah, come over when I have like 2 hours of free time and, send them on their way afterwards.
Yeah, it's a little
do you
odd.
think he's done? Do you think he's done coaching then? Like, I don't know.
No, I think he could be the Eagles coach next year.
Interesting. I thought if that was going to happen, it would happen this year.
Here's what I'll say. That Sirianni saved his job, but
he's on thin ice for sure.
Yeah, and they looked into Belichick last year. Jeffrey Lurie likes Belichick. I mean, like this could be a real thing. They have a roster to win right now, and if Nick Sirianni looks like an idiot this year, why wouldn't you bring Belichick in? He's not going to run the offense. It's not a long-term thing. You're trying to win in the next 2 or 3 years, and you can't. Bill Belichick's biggest issue, other than now having a 23-year-old girlfriend, was his personnel decisions.
Was GM Belichick.
He killed himself. He did. The coach Belichick, you'll never hear a player talk about Bill Belichick not being the best coach they've ever played for. He can coach every position in football. Position. He could be a positional coach on everybody. Right? So he's not calling plays. He's a master of defense. So this would be great to talk about if he's getting crushed. He's getting crushed in New England. I was listening to some Boston sports radio about it, and they're having too much fun with it.
Oh, I could only imagine, especially after the last couple seasons of just dread and.
Oh God, they hate him. They're so.
Could you just I just had like a funny image of like Coach Belichick like storming to the GM's office, like all pissed off about like player personnel and being like, "Oh shit, this is my office.
It's me.
Yep. This is my fault."
No one wants him here. Yeah, I think you're.
If he's not having control, then I think a lot of people would be open to the idea.
Yeah, he's not. He's obviously going to have influence, but Howie Roseman has also established himself as one of the best GMs in the league, who, by the way, is not a personnel-driven GM. He's not. He's not a talent evaluator. He's a guy that I'm sure he has opinions, and I'm sure he does all that stuff or whatever, but like he's listening to his guys. He's ultimately making the decision of what to do. You don't have to have an eye for talent to be a good GM. Talent evaluation is not his strength. Doing everything else is his strength. So Bill Belichick coming in here and and I think at this point, even down in Atlanta, he wasn't asking for full personnel. He didn't want full control. I don't think he ever asked for that. But I'm sure management, the guys in management down there, were not necessarily wanting Bill Belichick to come in because there would be a little bit of a power struggle. But yeah, we know Bill's not a good talent evaluator. That's what we just said. But how he's able to make it work. All I'm saying is this: we're going way past ourselves here. But if I was a team that was built to win right now, I would absolutely bring in Bill Belichick. Absolutely. So
yeah,
there you go. How'd you do in your soccer game tonight, buddy?
We lost. Bullshit. 4-2, something like that.
Did you score?
Nah, I usually play defense, so the fact that I actually scored this year is kind of impressive.
All right. Well, I mean, I led the show with it, and I did the best the best I could.
I can't believe I missed it. I'm so mad.
Well, here's your chance. Here's your chance. The Flyers, who, I mean, when there were rumors a couple weeks ago, I was like, well, there's got to be something to it because there's too many people saying it. So how good of a and I expect all Flyers and hockey fans to tell us how great this guy's going to be, but Michkov is his last name. Matvey Michkov.
Yeah. Yep. I'm
19 years old.
90% sure that's correct.
He's the Mad Russian. Is that his nickname?
I've never actually seen it in publication somewhere, but so many people have just put it out there. There's been shirts made about it already, so I'm just gonna assume that was somewhere along the lines before we drafted him because it just popped up right away.
I should start making T-shirts right now.
Yes, definitely, 100%. Wait till you get the number and stuff, and then kind of go from you might want to do some generic ones, and then when you get a number, then kind of go from there.
Right.
But no, he's supposedly he's the next big Russian prospect. There's been a couple of the last few years with Artemi Panarin, Kirill Kaprizov, Kucherov. He's got better draft year stats than pretty much all of them. And his draft plus 1 year, which would be the season that just happened, he's got almost set historical numbers for the first year in the league he was playing in Russia.
The KHL, which is a professional. It's not a junior.
It's the second biggest league in the world behind the NHL. So he's setting those he's broken Ovechkin's numbers, points per game. He's broken Kirill Kaprizov, Panarin, Kucherov, all those guys. He's got higher point per game averages than those guys in his draft year and his 19-year-old year. He was playing so Russia hasn't been able to play in a lot of the world tournaments since the Ukraine invasion and stuff. So The last tournament that any Russian team played in was the U18s. He was on that team as a 16-year-old and was the best player on the team.
Yeah, that's one of the other things I read was that and I didn't really think about it until I read it, which was navigating the fact that he is from Russia.
Well, was why he dropped to us.
Well, because because they didn't think he was going to come over till 2026, and they were unsure about it. But still, you look at Ovechkin, who, at the time, the angry mob wanted him to denounce Russia and Putin, and he's like, "Are you fucking out of your mind? I'm not saying anything about that. My family will go missing." So I don't know. I guess the temperature's a little bit different now because you don't see as much coverage over the war over there when it first started. It's still going on, obviously. So he may not get pressed into being asked say bad things about Putin or we're going to hate you. But it's awesome. Steve, you know me. I'm so ready for the Flyers to be good. I am so ready to hop on the bandwagon and make all you Flyer nerds mad. Because they'll be like, oh, all these bandwagon Flyer fans. Yep, that's me. Right there, that's me. But yeah, it'd be fun to have a hockey team in this town again.
Yeah, this dude is a building block piece. He's a cornerstone piece. If the Russian factor wasn't there last year, he went into last season or before his draft year being talked about as competition for Bedard for
he would have been the number 2 pick. Most people believe he would have been the second pick.
Right. So going into their draft year, they were 1A, 1B, and then Bedard went bananas.
Went nuts,
it's he solidified himself as the number 1 pick. He's going to be the unanimous rookie of the year coming up Thursday at the draft or their award show. So, but the fact that he's even in that conversation with them and they were able to pull the trigger and get him at 7 and the fact that they won't have to wait a year for him instead of 3 years, which is what got him at 7, is huge. It's going to be huge.
So
he's good.
Well, I mean, is this Jonesy and Briere just you gotta give them credit? They drafted him and
they took a risk.
No one thought that anybody would be able to get it done. Obviously, or he would have been drafted. And I mean, this is This is a huge deal. Now he's got to pan out and he's got to be
Yes.
a great player and they got to put talent around him. But this feels like the first step in really reestablishing to where we're talking about hockey right now, dude. You know what I mean? I know. I gotta talk about hockey and like this is what you need. You need these sexy players, man. So I'm excited. Yeah. This is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, he's the guy that you need, that superstar. Like you need that superstar type player. And we haven't had that since Giroux against Crosby when I was in college. So that's, 2013, 2014 ish, whatever. But he could be that guy. He's got the potential to be that guy. And the crazy thing, it's really shitty. What ended up happening was his dad passed away last year, and the Russian team is actually being nice and granting him this release.
That's why
they're like out of consideration for him, like he wants to be like away from all of it because the SK, I think it's pronounced Ska team that he plays for.
Yeah.
Like they're a very veteran laden team. Like they'll get the guys that are cast off from the NHL, but like for
so do they get the Flyers? Like, are they giving them a suitcase with money? What incentive does this team have to get rid of them other than they're just doing a solid for him?
They're doing a solid for Michkov because so his dad is from Sochi, I believe, and the team that they loan him to is in Sochi, and that's like the only place he doesn't want to be. And they use a veteran lineup, so he doesn't get to play as a 19-year-old.
Right.
So they're like, well, if we're not going to loan you to Sochi again, we're not going to use you. Why don't we terminate your contract? If you go to Philadelphia and you don't make the team, then you come back and you play for us. So but he's going to make the team.
So he's going to make the team. He's going to play.
Yeah. He's going to be here for minimum 3 years regardless, because the entry level
contract, right,
is a 3-year deal. He's going to be making like $900,000 a year, whatever. Who knows? Something like that. Probably. Right. And then there's bonuses attached to that if he eclipses them.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so he's as soon as he signs that entry level deal, he's here for 3 years, unless shit really gets crazy.
Right. Right. And the expectation is he's going to be signed to a contract extension and he's going to be one of the, the young stars in the NHL, and he helps kind of bring the Flyers back to where they were. I don't even know. When were they really true contenders before?
Oh, the freaking
Laviolette?
COVID year. The COVID year.
No.
But I'm just saying that one season, yes. But what you're talking about for like sustained contenders is well, they went to the Cup in 10, and then it was pretty much my 4 years of college, and they was like the last playoff series they won besides the COVID year. And it's like those teams kind of they flaked. Like they didn't live up to the expectations after the Stanley Cup run.
Right. Let's see.
So
we had the Dave Hackstall run, which didn't net you a playoff win. The Chief credit. So here's where you have after Laviolette. So you had Laviolette lost Stanley Cup Finals. That was in 2009, 2010. And then you lost in the semis. They came out early that next year, and Laviolette got fired pretty much right away, right?
Yeah, 4 games into the season after they paid Vinny Lecavalier to run Peter Laviolette's offense, like pretty much. Like you talking football terms. Like they literally got him to play in Laviolette's system, fired him, and then was like, oh, the guy that we just gave $5 million, you're going to play fourth line or not play. Or like it made no sense.
So when he got fired, I was working with Missinelli. I think I was working with Missinelli still.
Yeah. It would because I was at the Fanatic like 15, 16.
No, but I mean,
so you would probably a couple years before that would have been.
No, you know what it was? That's not true. It was when he got hired because I was not working with Mike then. When he got hired, they fired John Stevens. I became friends with a guy that he somehow knew Craig Berube. Like they were drinking buddies or something. And he texted me and he's like, yo, Stevens got fired. Craig Berube is the new coach. And this hadn't broken yet. And I called him during a commercial break and I'm like, hold on, what? I didn't even know how to pronounce Laviolette's name. in the text message. I'm like, I called him. I'm like, hold on. He's like, I'm friends with Berube. I talked to him. They fired whatever because Berube ended up being on his staff. So that's how he knew about it. I guess I don't know if he was on John Stevens' staff at that time. But so I go on the air and I'm like, Peter Laviolette's. Someone told me that John Stevens is fired and Peter Laviolette's the head coach. And I remember Mike being like, really? And I'm like, yeah. So then Howard Eskin was saying that he was the first one to break it. And I was like, nope, like I definitely broke it.
Yeah.
Peter Laviolette.
through Craig Berube's drinking buddy.
Yep. So anyway, that's my Peter Laviolette story. And he used to go, you remember, did you listen to the Mike Miss show when he used to go on with them on a weekly basis, Laviolette?
No, not really.
There's a lot of hockey guys out there. Bill Clement also comes to mind. I could bring on Bill Clement not knowing much about hockey, and he's such a good talker and so thoughtful and whatever, where I just like talking to him. I could have talked to anything with Bill Clement. And Laviolette was really, really good on the air. Really, really, and he liked Mike's show, and he listened to us. And so it was through West German BMW. They both got cars from West German BMW. So like he used to do a weekly call-in for a couple of years, and he was really, really good. He would talk about other sports.
He is a great personality.
Yeah, man.
In general. Yeah.
He was he was awesome. He was. So I always enjoyed him. But
he always brought the jam.
Yeah, let's go. Gotta start playing with some jam in here. Let's go. So Berube gets whacked. Oh, Dave Hackstall is going to save the day. Whoops.
That was such a bad hire.
Alain Vigneault won a series, but that was the COVID year, right? So I don't really count that.
Yeah. And it actually was a bullshit one too, because the Canadians were the 12th seed and upset somebody to play us. I think it was the Penguins.
Yeah.
I think they upset the Penguins to play us.
Well,
and we barely beat them, and then we shouldn't have almost beat the Islanders, and we almost pulled that off.
Listen, I go back to my guy Vince out there, probably listened to it as well. But the old Steve and Mike show, Steve Fredericks and Mike Missinelli, that was the mid '90s. That was the Eric Lindros and Legion of Doom and everything that happened with Lindros and Lindros's parents and. He liked the nightlife of Philadelphia. He was in his early 20s. Delaware Avenue was a thing. And yeah, you would, me being in my early 20s as well, you'd go out, and he's a little bit older than me. You'd go out and you might see Eric Lindros. You go out, you would maybe see Allen Iverson. You wouldn't actually see him. You just see his entourage or his posse. There'd be like 50 people around. You would never actually see him.
I saw Allen Iverson at live once. But he sat down at a poker table next to my old roommate.
Yeah, Lindros used to. Well, Allen Iverson used to like going to Kathmandu. Kathmandu is I don't even know what it's called or if even it's still around right now. But Kathmandu was out on the Delaware. It was like a I don't know, like a island type theme to it. My roommate Vasily worked there. It was pretty good. But I you know what I saw, and was it there? Might have been there. I saw John LeClaire, the original Survivor. They had a watch party for the last episode of the original Survivor. I think it was at Kathmandu. I was wherever John LeClaire was that night. I was there. And LeClaire, you would just thought was just some like dude that was just drinking beers. You didn't even realize if you didn't know it was John LeClaire, you'd have no idea. But that's awesome.
Yeah, LeClaire would always be at the rink at Havertown because I think he used to live in the area. I don't know, obviously, if he lives there now, but like in high school, you're just like walking around and you're like, shit, yeah, John LeClaire.
Yeah, he could
never talked to anybody, but
no, he wasn't a very charismatic guy. LeClaire, nice guy, Johnny.
Oh yeah,
LeClaire.
No, he was nice. Yeah, no, it wasn't. It was he just kind of stuck to himself. He'd like sit in the back row in the bleachers. Like you would have to go out of your way to like run into him. So it's just kind of like that would be awkward if he did it.
All right, well, Steve, we'll wrap up. It's a game 7. The Panthers
got it on.
The Panthers were up 3-0. The Oilers have won 3 straight. Game 7, Stanley Cup final. We're in the third period. 2-1 Panthers.
Panthers power play.
They're on the power play right now.
Yep.
Wow.
Just started.
You talk about a series, man. This is something else. So I'm going to jump off here and I'm going to go watch the rest of it. But what a series this has been.
I've been riding the Panthers this whole time. I do not want Edmonton to win at all.
Were you nervous about this tonight?
I mean, it's not nervous because like it doesn't affect me one way or another. But my idea is I want Draisaitl to be like, oh, I want out, and I want to be the main guy somewhere else, and then hopefully the Flyers can come in and give him the bag, and then he comes plays for us. That's my only thought. But if they keep winning, he's going to want to stay there. So
right,
need them lose. That's my only. That's my only vendetta.
He'll be here when he's 37. There, don't go, Steve.
Yeah, that Peter Forsberg all over again.
Yep.
So. Yeah, no, it's been wild. It's been a wild series for sure, and Edmonton's definitely dominated the last three way more than
dominated.
Florida
dominated.
Yeah,
I would have I picked Edmonton tonight, not really knowing anything, but the momentum felt like that it was just like, who did Florida score first?
Yes,
it's one of these games whoever scores first is going to win. And right now,
Florida scored first, and Edmonton bounced right back.
Oh, right back,
within, like 2-3 minutes tops.
Wow, there you go.
But yeah, I don't know. It's just the momentum thing's crazy in hockey. It's like it comes and it goes, and now they've been playing these wide open games, and now they're playing a game. I don't even think either team has 20 shots yet, and we're 5 minutes into the third period.
Bobrovsky isn't peeing himself.
As I didn't get to watch much. I got to watch 20 or like about 10 minutes on my phone before the game started, and then I caught the last minute of the second period. So, but from what I can see, he seems pretty steady.
Pretty crazy to think that and this was an Ed Snyder where he's like, oh, we can't wait for Bobrovsky. He's no, we need to trade him and get Brizgalov. Did they play him as a rookie and it just wasn't enough for him? So they're like, well, we're going to trade him, not even hold on to him and let him.
No, so they started his rookie year. He was like playing preseason games. The thing was Boucher was going to start with, I think Leighton, or like they were going to like flip back and forth. Bobrovsky, all of a sudden, the home opener or game one of the season, Bobrovsky's in that, and no one knew it was coming. Like no fans saw it coming whatsoever, and he dominated the first half of the year, and then as the season went on, he kind of tailed off.
Yeah.
So then, so if you're going to go through those growing pains that season, you ride him, and then they were like. So then Ed Snyder came out and said like what you said, and they signed Brizgalov. Oh, they're both Russians. They're going to be boys. Briz will teach Bob. Bob can grow into it. Yada, 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 yada. Well, you gave Brizgalov a 9-year deal. What the hell did you think was going to happen? And so they went out the rest of that year with the tandem, and then they traded him, I think the following offseason for, a bunch of seconds,
whatever. Right?
But it ended up being like you ended up getting Ghost was part of that deal, but they ended up screwing that up anyway. The Ghost doesn't stink. The Flyers screwed up big time with Ghost. They traded him for nothing, and then in that next trade deadline, the team that we paid to take him got a second round pick for him.
Yeah, but can he play? Is he playing well somewhere else?
He's playing. He played well in Detroit this year. He kind of turned their power play around this year, but he signed a 1-year deal. You got to know what type of player he is. He's not a hard-nosed defensive player. If you have a good stay-at-home defenseman to play with him and let him freewheel, then he can be an effective player. Other teams figure out how to do it with their players. We never have been able to see him to figure out how to do it. Ghost led the Coyotes in like points as a defenseman. I know that the Coyotes stunk, but like he worked with nothing and led the team in points. So if you put him with players that are effective, like he was his rookie year with like the Drews, the Hartnells, and those guys on the power play, he's going to score points.
Yeah.
And that's what he is. He's not a stay-at-home defenseman. He's 5'8" or something like that.
Yeah, you can't. You need the stay-at-home defenseman, but you need the puck-carrying defenseman as well.
Right. You got to find the great like Provorov hasn't been shit since he hasn't had Matt Niskanen as his partner. Matt Niskanen made him like that was the perfect partner for Provorov. Provorov played like a 1A defenseman that year. Every year he hasn't had Niskanen. It's just like potential, but he hasn't He hasn't lived up to it.
Well, listen,
So
man.
you find the perfect partner for somebody, and you get a good pairing.
Well, listen. This has been enough hockey talk for me to last me until the end of next season.
Got the draft Friday.
Oh yeah, you got to give your mock draft.
I don't have a mock draft for hockey, but there could be some trades. There's some trades brewing.
All right, so listen. Where's my feed in the ducks? As we get out of here, JJ Redick was announced to the media as a new coach of the Los Angeles Lakers.
Number one option all the way.
Yeah. Well, he was asked if he was going to continue to do his podcast, etc. And he said, no, it's all about coaching. Like, I'm not interested in the media or doing the podcast or whatever. As opposed to Doug Gottlieb, who got hired as a college coach. And he still is going to do his Fox Sports Radio show. Not even a podcast. He's a daily show on Fox Sports Radio.
Was he a coach before?
No.
Like, he was just the analyst on ESPN or whatever, and then went to Fox.
He played at Oklahoma State, and he's just been, he's been doing analysis and things like that. I think it's the school that he went to. His dad used to coach. It's like University of Green Bay, Wisconsin. I don't know exactly what. But I remember right afterwards he had said he does 2 hours on Fox Sports Radio, Monday through Friday. And he's like, no, I'm going to keep doing that. Dude, you can't keep doing that.
When are you supposed to recruit and,
well, regardless of that,
game plan and
if you're gonna be, if you're saying your listeners are like, I pretty much either don't care about you because I'm not going to be able to say anything now, like giving my true opinion, because if I do that, then it's going to get me in trouble, because then they're going to be asking me about that as opposed to asking me about my team, or you're not going to say anything. You can't be a coach and have a sports radio show where you have opinions. You can't be a head coach of anything. You can't be a coach. It's ridiculous. And JJ Redick is not going to be doing his podcast, which he should.
So what? JJ's going to it's a stupid question anyway. So what? He's going to sit there and talk about, strategy for games where like, oh, well, he's talking about it. They're probably going to do this stuff or looking to defend this way and shit like that.
I don't listen to his podcast now, so I don't know what he's talking about right now. But yeah, I mean, I guess you could have done it, but you don't.
Yeah,
you don't.
No way.
You don't. No.
You only hurt yourself.
Players are doing it. Like Draymond. Draymond was pretty much he made a name for himself in the podcast space because he was doing post games when the Warriors were still good.
Yep.
Now they stink. All right, Delco Steve. Well, better late than never. I gave you your hockey talk.
Sorry.
Very excited.
Sorry, I had to crash late.
Are you putting any future bets down for the Flyers to win the Stanley Cup next year?
As soon as there's a Michkov line for points, I'm going to be interested in seeing what that is.
All right.
Just out of curiosity.
Follow, subscribe, like, comment, everything else. We'll be back Thursday at 9:00. Till then, see ya.
I'll be here on time. Congrats on the baby, Vince.